The moment I saw that message light up my screen, "Can't wait to see you again, my heart stopped. Mike was just in the next room, probably elbow deep in some engine part he'd brought home again, oblivious to the storm brewing in the living room. I lunged for my phone, my fingers fumbling to swipe away the evidence. "Everything okay?" Mike's voice cut through the silence, startling me as he stepped into the room, wiping grease off his hands with a rag. "Yeah, just work stuff," I managed, my voice a notch too high. "Client meeting got rescheduled." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue, but it slid out too easily. Mike nodded, unbothered, and went back to his mechanical world, leaving me to my own swirling thoughts. Our life had become this predictable pattern. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. I craved a spark, something to break the monotony, but I never imagined seeking it outside our marriage. Meeting Alex was like a breath of fresh air. He was vibrant, full of stories and laughter, so different from the routine life Mike and I had settled into. When Alex first complimented my designs over coffee, it was like someone finally saw me, not just Emily, the wife, or Emily, the part-time graphic designer, but Emily, the person. The thrill of sneaking around with Alex was intoxicating at first. Our lunch breaks became our secret meetings, each one a step further away from my life with Mike. I convinced myself it was just a little excitement, nothing serious. But as the lies piled up, so did the guilt. The close call with the message was a wake-up call, a reminder of the double life I was leading. But instead of pulling back, I dove deeper, entangled in the web of my own lies. Telling Mike it was a work query felt like the easiest way out at the moment, but the weight of my deceit was getting harder to carry. As I sat there, watching Mike return to his work, a part of me wanted to shout the truth, to break free from the lies. But fear held me back. Fear of losing the comfort of our routine life, fear of the unknown, and fear of Mike's reaction. I realized then that the excitement I sought with Alex was just a fleeting escape from a deeper issue in our marriage. But by the time I understood this, it felt like I was too far gone, too deep into this affair that started as an innocent search for attention. The irony wasn't lost on me. In my quest to feel seen, I had become more invisible than ever, both to Mike and to myself. The moment I clicked "Create Account" on that new email service, I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was like stepping over a line I couldn't see but knew was there. "This is just to keep things organized," I lied to myself, ignoring the gnawing guilt at the pit of my stomach. It was a lie, a big, fat, ugly one, and deep down, I knew it. But the thrill of sneaking around with Alex, the way he made me feel alive, was intoxicating. I convinced myself I was doing this to find happiness, something I felt was missing in my marriage with Mike. Alex's gift, a delicate silver bracelet, became my secret treasure, hidden away in the back of my sock drawer. I'd take it out, admiring its shine, feeling a mix of joy and guilt. Wearing it was my silent rebellion, a symbol of the attention and affection I craved so much. But it was also a tangible reminder of my deceit. Mike started to notice changes, small at first. "You seem different lately," he'd say, his brow furrowed in concern. "Is work stressing you out?" I'd brush off his concerns with a rehearsed, "Yeah, just a lot on my plate," while my heart raced with fear of being discovered. I became more cautious, paying for my secret outings with Alex in cash, thinking it would cover my tracks. Each lie, each sneaky maneuver, was a brick in the wall I was building between Mike and me, yet I was too lost in the thrill to see it. Then came the close call that sent my heart into my throat. Mike found a restaurant receipt in my purse, a pricey one that didn't match any client meeting I could have had. "Must have been a mix-up at the restaurant," I said, laughing it off, while my insides twisted into knots. But the real wake-up call was the day I forgot to log out of my secret email on the family iPad. I remembered in a cold panic late at night, rushing to the living room, only to find Mike already in bed. The next morning, the iPad lay untouched, but the air between us felt different, charged with an unspoken tension. Guilt started to eat at me, but I pushed it down, justifying my actions with the thought that my marriage to Mike had been on the rocks long before Alex came into the picture. "I deserve happiness," I'd whisper to myself, trying to drown out the guilt with anger and blame. But with each secret meeting, each lie, that happiness felt more like a mirage, slipping further away the closer I tried to get. In my heart, I knew I was walking a dangerous path, one that could lead to the destruction of everything I held dear. Yet, the fear of losing the excitement and attention Alex gave me battled with my guilt and love for Mike, leaving me trapped in a web of my own making. The moment I realized Mike was growing suspicious, my world started to spin out of control. It wasn't just a nagging feeling anymore. It was an all-consuming dread that settled in the pit of my stomach, gnawing at me relentlessly. I could see it in the way he looked at me, a mix of confusion and suspicion shadowing his usually warm eyes. The casual checks on my phone and laptop, once innocent, now felt like the beginnings of an investigation. "I'm just checking something for work," Mike would say, but the tension in his voice was palpable, a stark contrast to the easygoing man I married. I knew something had shifted, but I was too wrapped up in the web of lies I had spun with Alex to fully grasp the extent of Mike's suspicion. Then came the day Mike found the secret email account. I didn't know it at the time, but leaving it logged in on the family iPad was the mistake that would unravel everything. Mike, ever the silent observer, started monitoring my communications with Alex. Every email, every plan, every word exchanged was being documented, building a case I didn't even know existed. Mike's change in behavior was subtle but noticeable. He started spending more time with Tom, his best friend since high school, and I could only imagine the conversations they were having. "You should talk to her, man," I overheard Tom say one evening when I walked past the garage. Mike's silence was his answer, and the heavy air between them spoke volumes. Despite the mounting evidence, Mike chose not to confront me. Instead, he followed me one day, a shadow trailing behind unnoticed. From a distance, he watched as Alex and I laughed together, oblivious to the pain we were causing. Mike's heartbreak was a silent specter at our table, unseen but deeply felt. But Mike wasn't content with just observing. He took a step further, a step into a territory that was both invasive and desperate. He installed a GPS tracker in my car, a silent guardian of my betrayals, logging every visit to Alex, every secret rendezvous. The technology I relied on to keep my affair hidden was now being used against me, a poetic justice that didn't escape me even in my delusion. Each move Mike made was calculated, a strategy born of hurt and the need for undeniable proof. He was building a fortress of evidence, one that I would eventually be unable to deny. And yet, he waited, a storm gathering force, for the moment to unleash the truth in a way that would leave no room for doubt, no possibility of escape. In the midst of it all, I remained blissfully ignorant, caught up in a fantasy that was slowly suffocating the reality of my marriage. The thrill of the affair blinded me to the destruction it was causing, leaving me unprepared for the fallout that was to come. The day I forgot Mike's birthday was the day I knew I had lost myself in this affair. It wasn't just a date on the calendar. It was a symbol of how far I had drifted from the woman I once was, the woman Mike married. The realization hit me like a cold wave, leaving me shivering with guilt. But by then, the damage was done, the wedge between us driven deeper with my every action. I remember scrambling to make excuses, to cover up my forgetfulness with lies about work stress and deadlines. But the hurt in Mike's eyes was unmistakable, a silent accusation that no words could soothe. I had prioritized my affair with Alex over my husband's birthday, a betrayal of our vows that couldn't be undone with a belated cake or a hastily bought gift. Meanwhile, Mike, unbeknownst to me, had been collecting evidence of my infidelity. The day he captured a photo of Alex and me together at the park was the day he sealed the fate of our marriage. That photo, a frozen moment of betrayal, was the undeniable proof he had been waiting for. As I lied about a work trip, planning a secret weekend getaway with Alex, Mike was at home, reflecting on the shattered pieces of our marriage. The loneliness and betrayal he felt were profound, a mixture of sadness and disillusionment that no one should ever have to endure. But life has a way of unraveling lies when we least expect it. I returned early from my trip with Alex, a sudden pang of conscience urging me to try and mend what I had broken. I told Mike I missed him, that I wanted to work on our marriage, but my words were hollow, a too late attempt to salvage the unsalvageable. It was then that Mike found the bracelet Alex had given me, hidden away like a shameful secret. The discovery of that bracelet in our bedroom was the silent scream that broke the camel's back. It was proof of my emotional departure from our marriage, a tangible symbol of my betrayal. Each event, each lie, and each secret had built up to this moment of reckoning. The facade I had maintained was crumbling, revealing the ugly truth of my actions. I was forced to confront the reality of what I had done, the pain I had caused to the man I once promised to love and cherish. In my quest for excitement, I had lost sight of what truly mattered. The realization came too late, and the cost was a marriage built on years of love and memories, now tainted by betrayal. The path I had chosen led me to this point of no return, where the consequences of my actions stared back at me, unforgiving and stark. The moment I stepped into the restaurant with Mike for our anniversary dinner, a knot of unease tightened in my stomach. It was supposed to be a celebration, a marker of our years together, but the weight of my secret affair with Alex loomed between us like an uninvited guest. I plastered on a smile, trying to ignore the growing sense of dread as we sat down to dinner. The evening started off normal enough, with Mike making small talk, asking about my day, my work. But there was a distant look in his eyes, a coldness I couldn't quite place. My attempts at conversation felt forced, hollow, as if we were both just going through the motions. Then, as the last plates were cleared away, the moment I had been dreading yet never truly anticipated arrived. Mike's demeanor changed. He became more serious, more somber. "We need to talk," he said, his voice steady but laced with an emotion I couldn't decipher. He began to lay out the evidence of my affair with Alex, one piece at a time. The photos, the emails, the secret meetings, and finally, the bracelet Alex had given me. Each item was a nail in the coffin of our marriage, a tangible proof of my betrayal. I felt cornered, trapped. My initial reaction was to deny everything, to cling to the web of lies I had woven so carefully. But as Mike continued, his pain and disappointment piercing through his words, my defenses crumbled. Tears streamed down my face as I confessed to the affair, the words tumbling out in a flood of guilt and shame. Then came the ultimatum that cut through the air like a knife. "You need to choose, Emily. It's him or me." His voice was firm, leaving no room for negotiation. The reality of what I had done, the gravity of my choices, hit me all at once. I was overwhelmed, torn between the life I had built with Mike and the escape Alex represented. "I don't know," I whispered, the truth of my indecision exposing the depth of my confusion and betrayal. Mike's response was swift and decisive. Without another word, he stood up, his chair scraping against the floor with a finality that echoed in my heart. "I'll be at my brother's. Take your time to decide," he said, his voice hollow. Then he walked out of the restaurant, out of our dinner, out of the life we had shared together, leaving me alone with the shattered pieces of our marriage. As I sat there, amidst the remnants of our anniversary dinner, the weight of my choices bore down on me. I realized then the full extent of the damage I had caused, not just to Mike, but to myself. The urgency of the moment, the need to make a decision, was overwhelming, but in the end, it was the realization that I might have already lost everything that hurt the most. The night Mike walked out of the restaurant, leaving me with a choice that shattered my world, I felt a desperation I'd never known. My first instinct was to reach out to Alex, to find solace in the one who had been the catalyst for this chaos. But as the phone rang unanswered, again and again, the reality of my isolation crashed down on me. Alex, who had been so present, so entwined in my days, suddenly became a ghost, unreachable and silent. The silence from his end screamed louder than any argument, leaving me to face the wreckage of my choices alone. In the quiet of our home, stripped of Mike's presence, the gravity of what I had done began to truly weigh on me. The walls echoed with the memory of laughter, arguments, and whispered secrets, now replaced by a deafening silence that pressed in on all sides. I was left alone, with the stark truth of my betrayal as my only company. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I walked through the empty rooms, each step a reminder of the love and life I had gambled away. The morning light didn't bring clarity, only the harsh reality of a new day. I was determined to face Mike, to try and mend the unbridgeable gap between us. My heart clung to a sliver of hope, believing in the power of apologies, of open conversations. But as I stood outside his brother's house, the truth delivered its cruel blow. Mike wasn't there. He hadn't been there since he left the restaurant. The finality of his absence, the physical distance, shattered any illusions I had harbored about reconciliation. Returning home, the sight that greeted me was a punch to the gut. Mike's belongings were gone, his side of the closet bare, his drawer empty. The note he left was concise, a few lines that severed our ties completely. "I can't continue with this marriage." The words were a closure I wasn't prepared for, a silent goodbye that echoed louder than any spoken words. The days that followed were a blur, a series of motions devoid of meaning. When the divorce papers arrived, they were a stark, legal confirmation of Mike's decision to end our marriage. The document, so clinical and impersonal, was the final nail in the coffin of our shared life. Signing them felt like signing away a part of my soul, an acknowledgement of my failure not just as a wife, but as a partner and friend to Mike. In the aftermath, the solitude was suffocating. The absence of Mike's presence, the silence of the phone that no longer rang with Alex's calls, left me in a limbo of my own making. The realization that I was the architect of my despair was a bitter pill to swallow. My attempts to escape the mundanity of my marriage had led me here, to an existence far lonelier than the one I had tried to flee. As I faced the empty days and nights, the full weight of my actions settled on my shoulders. The betrayal, the lies, and the hurt I had inflicted on Mike were irrevocable. The path to this moment was paved with choices, each one leading further away from the woman I once was, from the life and love I had taken for granted. In the end, the quest for something more had left me with nothing, a poignant lesson learned too late. From the moment I realized the finality of our separation, my days were consumed with a frantic, hollow urgency. I reached out to Mike, my messages a mix of apologies, pleas, and promises of change. But each call went unanswered, each message left unread. It was like shouting into the void, my voice echoing back at me, a reminder of the isolation my actions had wrought. The divorce proceedings were a blur, a swift and unyielding march towards the end of what we had built together. Mike was resolute, his decision final, leaving no room for the reconciliation I so desperately sought. The papers were signed with a trembling hand, the ink a testament to the destruction of our vows. In the wake of the divorce, I was left to navigate the debris of my life alone. The apartment we once shared felt cavernous, the silence a constant companion. I was haunted by the ghost of our life together, each corner a reminder of what had been and what I had squandered. Mike, in contrast, seemed to find a path forward with a speed that took my breath away. News of his relocation came to me through the grapevine, a bitter pill to swallow. He had moved to a new city, embracing a fresh start with a determination that I couldn't help but admire from afar. The realization of what my actions had cost me settled in with a weight that was suffocating. I understood, too late, the value of the love and life I had discarded in pursuit of something I had mistaken for happiness. The reflection in the mirror showed a woman I barely recognized, marked by regret and the consequences of her choices. It was on a crowded street, months later, that I saw Mike again. He was with someone new, a partner who looked at him with the same love and adoration I once had. The sight of them together, so clearly moved on, was a stark visual confirmation of the end of our chapter. The finality of it, the realization that he had found happiness beyond the wreckage of our marriage, was both a relief and a devastating blow. Living with the regret of my choices became my new normal. The understanding that I was the architect of my own downfall was a lesson learned in the hardest way. My actions had not only destroyed my marriage but had also forced me to confront the parts of myself I had long ignored. Mike's resilience, his ability to rebuild and find happiness, was a stark contrast to my own struggle to move forward. His journey was a testament to the strength of the human spirit, an inspiring tale of overcoming betrayal and pain. In the end, my story serves as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the pain it can inflict on those we love and ourselves. As I live in the shadow of my decisions, Mike's new beginnings offer a glimmer of hope, a proof that even in the aftermath of heartbreak, it is possible to rebuild and find